Good afternoon. We're going to start our meeting. Thank you. Hello. All righty. Thank you. First, I want to say welcome to the Student Advisory Council, and thank you for being here today.
I just went on a tour with them. They had some great questions. Really great group of young citizens there.
All righty. I have item 9, and that is ready. Thank you. And I also, along with Councilor Allen and Councilor Lovejoy, have a resolution to declare Tuesday, April 2nd as Equal Pay Day in the city of Syracuse. And we're going to call that one ready as well. Any questions? Anybody want to sign on? Okay, all councilors. Thank you. Councilor Thompson.
Yes, Madam President. I have items 11 through 14. Item 11, I spoke with the chief yesterday about item 11. This is a person that they're looking to hire to come in and train the sergeants, lieutenants, and captains in just handling suicidal and emotionally disturbed people. The person will be giving, he's from Lexipol, he'll be giving 3 sessions, of which he's only charging for 2 of the sessions, 2 8-hour sessions. The sergeants, lieutenants, and captains will then be trained, and they will go and train the rest of the police department. That's what I'm being told. He's going to be here on Monday to discuss this, if there are any questions. Number 12 and 13 are items that are traditionally year-to-year ones. If there are any questions on those. And the one where we have some questions here is item number 14, Chief Mons.
Good afternoon, everybody. This item is regarding our drone. We're basically going to enter into a contract to collect our data, and they're going to help us analyze it. Our innovation team and our captain, Tim Gleason, is here with me. They've been working a lot about it. If you guys got any questions, they could answer any specifics you have. Sam Edelstein also has been working on this project. So do you have any questions regarding it, the contract, or what the purpose of it is?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm actually gonna hold this for a committee meeting, so
Okay.
that we can get into the minutia on it too. But
Should
go
we
ahead.
save for the committee meeting? I don't know. I was just curious if you'd done any kind of ROI analysis, like what you would traditionally do in these situations where you need the drones instead. What would, you know what I mean? What would be the typical protocol, and what type of things what does this save us from? What are we currently doing that would be eliminated by the introduction of these drones?
Nothing. It's just giving us more tools in our toolbox. We had a fire the other day at a large complex. It was very hard to get to. We had our drone go over the top of the building, and we were able to pinpoint where to go put the fire out. Some of these fires, the longer it takes for us to get to them, they escalate, and having some tools to be able to mitigate whatever's going on is the goal of part of the drone program. But we have a whole program that they're putting together. It's very extensive. There's a lot of new technology that they're trying to innovate with some of the initiatives from the city. So if they can answer the questions right now if you'd like. I've got the people here right now to answer any questions you'd like.
I think because drones are involved, I'd like to have a committee meeting on it. So.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Oh wait, Councilor Allen had a question as well.
It's not for you, actually. It's number 12.
Okay.
From someone from the police department.
They're actually all in Rochester today, I think, except for the ones that'll be coming in for the public hearing.
Okay, I do have a question. I don't know if you want to reach out to them, or I can. Or Janet, would you may be able to, since you submitted the application?
I'm not sure. The agendas are gone.
Okay.
Item 12, the 46,000.
So item 12, it says these annual funds will be used by the Syracuse Police Department to increase seatbelt usage and reduce aggressive speeding. Yes. I just want to know, how are they going to use the money to actually do that? Do you know?
You know what? I don't know the answer to
Okay.
that. I'm so sorry. There's nobody here from police?
It's okay. It's okay.
I can get
I'll
you
contact
I'd
them.
be happy to
Yeah.
get you the answer for that, okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
And this is a grant that the city has gotten in the past, but
Right, it's an annual grant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get you that
Yep,
information.
I understand. I just wanted to know how this $46,000 is going to help them to increase that.
Right, I think the 46,000 is mostly for overtime, for salary and
Right, that's what I
overtime
thought, so I
for
wanted to
the
know for sure.
officers.
Okay,
To do the.
thank you.
those are my items.
Thank you. Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 15, Dave Proact, you want to introduce it?
Good afternoon, councilors. I'm Dave Proact, Director of IT. Asking for your support for item number 15. This gives the city permission to enter into an application with National Grid. Last year, I built the first half of a fiber ring in downtown Syracuse, and now I'm trying to build the other half. And I'm hoping to do this via National Grid conduit. There's a $200 application fee, and there may be some costs when they go in and inspect their duct banks to make sure they have room for us. And that's what this legislation is asking you to support. Any questions?
Yeah, what will be? So the actual impacts on this will be primarily on this corridor around City Hall. Is that correct?
Well, it'll give us some diversity in our paths. So we've been building a little fiber ring. We have half a ring now. All right, this is the other half of the ring that'll come down East Water and come around this side of City Hall. So we're starting to use that more and more for our internet. We have bigger plans to use that ring as it gets built out. We need that diversity in order to really depend on it, right? So if it gets cut out front, we'd still be able to run off the other half of it.
So this will improve service for City Hall and for the surrounding area? Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah.
Well, for the city of Syracuse, right?
For the city, not for the
non-city.
constituents, not for the
Right.
businesses.
Right,
This is
yeah,
for
yeah.
our network,
Yeah,
chiefly.
this will improve
Yeah.
our network
Yes.
here. Yeah.
And it'll open up possibilities to partner with other folks as well. But the first thing to do is get this ring fully built out. Then we'll have plenty of opportunities to choose from, I believe.
Do we have any analysis on what, like, will there be speed changes? Like, will we go from
Oh yeah, we had
gigabytes to gigabytes?
yeah
Like, I don't know
we
what
had
the
we had
analysis is,
significant
but-
we had a significant speed increase in the in October here at City Hall and City Hall Commons when we lit the first half of this ring, because we're not dependent on a cable franchise for our internet access. Now we have a direct fiber connection to the State Tower building, where there's a number of different vendors offering direct service right there. So we go there now, we buy it wholesale,
Yeah.
as opposed to waiting for somebody to come to us and sell it to us at retail.
Okay. I think that's good for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 16. Is there anybody for the Bureau of Administrative Adjudication? Hey.
Hi, Leah Whitmer, the Director of the Bureau of Administrative Adjudication. This is for court reporting software so that we can record all of our hearings as required under the ordinance.
Just audio, or
It'll be just audio, yep.
audio will be recorded, and that's what this software does.
Yep, it's a court reporting software, so used in courts across the country. Rochester uses this, so it's one of the cities that we modeled our bureau on. They've had good success with it. So this is, we did look at a couple of other options and got quotes from a couple of other options. This was the most user-friendly and conformed to our needs the best.
And how long do you keep the audio records? Are they stored indefinitely, or?
We'll store them indefinitely based on New York State laws, so for at least 7 years. They'll all go directly to the computer. We have a computer set up in our hearing room, and then we'll save them individually within each case file electronically.
And is that included in all the cost?
Yep,
see
all of
here?
that. Yep, it's all included in the cost. There's the one $4,000 and change upfront cost, and then there's the annual maintenance cost going forward of $605.68 for support.
Okay.
This isn't going to be stored on the cloud anywhere?
No, it goes directly to our hard drives
And what is your start date?
to start issuing tickets. We anticipate the first tickets being issued the week of April 8th. Anything else? No? Thank you.
Thank you, Leah.
I can't wait.
17.
Councilors, Dave Delvecchio, Commissioner of Finance. Item 17, as you know, the city has a program, if interested property owners like to purchase a specific location adjacent. In this particular property 700 Block South Geddes Street, the plan, if you agree, and we've done these before, would be to sell the delinquent tax liens to the applicant for $1,300. The applicant then is responsible to file the liens, to collect on those liens. Now, we do this in suspected Brownfield cases, and the Property Sales Review Committee can speak to this more specifically. We are not seizing this property. We are accepting a sum of money, and in return, allow the applicant the ability to collect on that and file foreclosure on the property.
How do you arrive at the price of $1,302?
That was a bid. A bid went out, and there was one applicant, and that was the amount of the bid.
No, the tax is over 130.
And if he doesn't file the liens,
I know.
We get our money, we split it, we apportion it with the county. We receive our money. They need to move forward. They would retain their own attorney. The city is not part of the process. If they choose not to, we still keep the money, and it's my understanding if they don't proceed, we sold those tax liens, but going forward, if the current property owner does not pay the taxes, you know, then we can seize based on those amounts going forward. But the liens in question will be sold. Again, it's outstanding taxes, $134,000.
And what is the, I'm sorry, I forgot if we already passed these around. Do we know what the purchaser plans to do with the property?
I don't have, I believe someone from NBD or.
He owns the cell phone store across the street. He's going to move the cell phone. He's going to tear down the gas station part, put the cell phone store in there, and then have what is the cell phone store now be something else, retail.
Yep. Okay.
So does this relieve the city of the liability for the Brownfield?
Well, again, a legal question, but I don't believe we have liability at this issue.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Short answer.
So Dave, before you leave and they move on to the bonds, are we gonna RFP the developmental center?
I have no information on that.
Okay.
Any other questions on 17? Okay. 18.
18 is a request to issue a bond anticipation note on behalf of the Joint Schools Construction Board project in Phase 2. The amount is $20 million. This is consistent with what was approved by the Board of Education a few days ago, and it's part of the overall plan. Again, the note is what we refer to as short-term money. We issue these bonds, we collect cash that is then used by the project to upfront some architectural construction costs. And then when we close on these bonds, the Industrial Development Agency would issue permanent financing for the project. So again, we've done these over the past few years to finance upfront costs.
We pay the interest, or the school district pays the interest?
All costs are charged to the project, except the interest cost of the financing would be paid by the school district. Yes.
Do you have a short way to identify the difference between a bond anticipation note and a revenue anticipation note? Is it just that the one you're getting money from like another government and the other you're going to issue your own debt, but you haven't done it yet?
Right. Right. Again, the revenue is from revenues, usually state aid. On the bond side, now what would happen is if the district is unable to pay or the project doesn't move forward, these will get converted into bonds, which is why the legislation before you, it's a bond anticipation note, and we can renew these every year for up to 5 years, but at some point they need to be paid off. So but we've been, again, we're not in that situation, but just that's what that is. So that's permanent the short-term money will later be converted to permanent financing, either through the city government obligation or through the Industrial Development Agency. And the plan of JSCB is everything is financed ultimately through JSCB.
No, go ahead. I don't know if this is the correct venue, but can we talk about, this is all going to Fowler? Do you know, or does someone else here know?
No.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said, well, it's got listed here that this is going to the JSCB Fowler Project. Phase 2 projects at PSLA at Fowler.
Counselor, that's the original short title that we're amending to now add the next phase. So the original title was for Fowler for 10 million. Now we're doing another phase. We have to print the original title so you know when we're amending something.
Okay.
Right, I believe that's one of the schools, but yeah, there's additional
It's in the packet.
schools, all right.
Brandon, I'm looking through 18 now. I see 2 pages.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else. I'm just curious as to what do we know what this 20 million is going towards? Which legs of the, I'm sure there was a school board meeting or something that we weren't able to attend, but I'm just curious where this 20 million is going and
Specifically,
know?
what schools? I don't, Don, have you,
I don't know.
the specific schools? You know at this point? Is there phase 2 schools?
so that was the whole, we
moving.
had a previous meeting about phase 2. Is that, so this is
Yes.
Nottingham and
Nottingham, Cork,
all the other ones we
Right.
talked about already?
I think Fowler's included.
It's for tranche 2, Joe, if you read it in the letter, it's for tranche 2, it's the project.
Okay.
And that's Fowler is part of tranche 2.
Fowler, Nottingham, Cork.
So we will, that was part of my question, so we will get to Fowler in this phase 2? Is that that's the
Probably
goal?
not the right individual to answer that. I don't know what the status is of the construction, but
we
that's
just
the
get the
plan.
break-
The plan is to begin work there. Yeah.
Okay.
Architectural design and construction.
I know you're just here to discuss the bonding, which is, that's the issue before us, but does anybody else in the House know from the school district?
I would just ask that if you can provide us with a breakdown of where the.
I know we
20
already
million
had a meeting about this, I
going.
just wanna make sure we're talking about the same thing here and just following up. So do you know where all this 20 million is going? We spoke, Nottingham, is Fowler gonna be included in this?
Yes, the Fowler project has not been started yet.
Yeah, it hasn't been started yet.
Correct.
Will it be included in this 20 million?
All the phase 2
All the phase 2
expenses.
projects will get done.
That's correct. You're talking
20 million.
about future projects as well. We have Clary, Danforth, Elms, Henniger, Nottingham, Corcoran. We have expenses for all of those.
I apologize for not knowing. Can you just say your name and title?
Donna Harris, Fiscal Officer at Syracuse City School District.
Thank you. Can we have a list of the $20 million breakdown of, since,
Yeah, because we had JSCB in here to discuss this, and I keep hearing different timelines for the Fowler project in particular. And I'm aware it's a very complicated project. We're all aware of the multifaceted aspects of this project and how complicated it is. But I'd still, I personally would like a refresher on which projects are happening and when they're happening. I realize that probably wouldn't be in your purview, but could someone follow up with us about what this 20 million will
There's
go
a meeting
towards and what the
tomorrow.
timeline? There's a meeting
9
tomorrow?
a.m.
Okay.
for the JSC?
Where at?
Right.
Here.
Oh, okay.
I would just ask if somebody at the school district give us a breakdown of the 20 million, since as Dave just described, the bond anticipation note, that if we don't do a project, we end up issuing a bond just for this structure without the project, so we should know at least what the 20 million is going to.
What type of breakdown are you looking for?
Right now it says we're giving you $20 million, and it says like toward phase 2. Can you describe the schools? And
It's a not to exceed $20 million. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to use or ban for $20 million. It's
Can you
an
give us a not to exceed $20 million list of projects that it might go to?
It's all the future, the ones that I just listed.
Oh, you have it? If you have,
Hanover, Clary.
I don't have it,
Danforth.
so I'm just, okay.
And I can make sure you guys get it, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So
That-
basically, you want a list of all the
A breakdown of the,
upcoming projects and
So, I mean, literally,
we might
Dave just
use
said
the
a
money
bond
for?
anticipation
Sure.
note. If the project that we're doing doesn't happen, that we end up bonding for this, the payment of issuing a ban. So what are the projects? So if they don't happen, we know.
And also, I realize this wouldn't be in your purview, but, well, I guess, Madam President, you have the timelines for everything as well? I've just heard different timelines from the Nottingham project. Like, I thought we were already supposed to be in production for the repairs that were supposed to happen in Nottingham, and I don't know when that's supposed to happen in my district. I've had the principal reach out to talk about that.
Contracts haven't been signed yet for Nottingham.
Okay. And Fowler, so I guess I would just like we get a lot of constituent questions about when projects are going into operation, and I thought we had timelines that were already supposed to be in operation, so I'd like to know, like, just an update on when this 20 million will be dealt out and where it will go and what the timelines will be and that kind of stuff, because we did have a meeting about this, but it seems like the information is always changing, so if we can get an update on.
So, Madam
where we are
President, if you
currently.
can share what you have with us, and then if we have, we'll include Counselor Driscoll, and if we have outstanding questions, we will share it with the school district.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
19.
Councilors, item 19 is to request legislation to amend the process of the Downtown Special Assessment District. Currently, property owners within this district remit payment to the city twice a year. We're requesting that we now add those amounts to the city school tax bill and allow it to be paid in 4 installments. So the change would be to add this to as a line item to the city school tax bill. And the property owners would be eligible to make four quarterly installments as opposed to the 2 that we currently.
So we send multiple separate bills. This is going to consolidate it into one
bill. Right.
Okay. Questions on this one? No. Good. 20. I do believe there's appetite for a committee meeting on 20, so I'm going to look to schedule one Monday before the voting session. Are there questions? Is there anything urgent that somebody wants in relation to this before that? We'll hold it until the meeting.
Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. For item 21, if we could just have Sam and Mary just to kind of, so I think our basic question on this is, because we do have a potential franchise agreement or a larger agreement coming forward. So just to get a clear sense of the process prior to that, which is what we're looking at this item for, versus how the process will be after we were to reach a hypothetical franchise agreement, and how any of the individual one-off agreements that we reach prior to reaching a franchise agreement, how that interplay relates to the future.
Well, this would be the second individual poll that you're approving. The last one was last year for Verizon on Salt Springs Road, a similar thing, a single pole attachment on a national grid pole. This is mobility, asking for a single pole attachment on a streetlight pole, but the pole will, if there's a second facility on that pole, which this would be the second facility, grid will retain ownership of the pole, and we would still own the streetlight and the arm that comes off the pole supporting the streetlight fixture. So there's no real impact. It's just 2 individual poles. Our intent is to enter into franchise agreements with anyone that wants to install facilities in the right-of-way moving forward. We have to follow the FCC regulations. We've drafted up aesthetic standards, which we're very close to being complete on. So they will be published within the deadline, which is April 15th. And our intent is to enter into franchise agreements for any companies that want to install the small cell antenna moving forward.
So then the other question would be, are these companies able to submit multiple applications at a time prior to a franchise agreement? I'm just worried about a hypothetical scenario where people get a bunch of applications in and kind of go outside the franchise agreement process.
I suppose they could. I don't know what would prevent them from doing it, but we would have to, because they don't have a franchise agreement, we would have to bring it to the council for their review and approval.
Okay, Mary, when is the, or this might be law, when is the city supposed to take over the, when is this agreement with Niagara Mohawk coming to fruition?
I have to defer on that one.
Joe Barry, First Assistant Corporation Counsel. We are currently fine-tuning the legal agreements to enter into the purchase and sale with Niagara Mohawk, and we anticipate that being done within the next several weeks.
Okay.
And then once the deal is finalized, it will go, how long after the deal is finalized will it go into effect?
It has to, the agreements that we're working on have to be approved by the Public Service Commission, and they can take 4 to 6 months to act on them. But in the meantime, National Grid has agreed to grant us a temporary use agreement so that we can have our contractors go into the right-of-way and start to begin the LED replacement, the LED lighting.
Yeah, watch the LED, not
yeah, LED.
That's a whole nother kettle of
different
fish.
acronyms. So we'll hopefully begin the LED replacement program this summer.
Oh, wow.
No, okay, one quickie, Mr.
Yeah.
Kearney.
I
Can we
just-
take the side conversations in the hallway, please, so we can continue our business? Thank you.
I'm just trying to understand. So if we put up, allow folks to put up multiple cells on it, we no longer can purchase it. We know we don't have it is maintained or.
Well, we
kept, right?
would still be purchasing what we want to purchase, which is the street light. We don't necessarily have to own the pole in order to own the street light. Actually, that kind of reduces our maintenance cost, because if it's a pole that has this antenna on it and a street light, Grid would retain ownership of that pole. If the pole got hit, Grid would be responsible for replacing the pole and not the city.
Okay. And
We would be responsible for the street light, which is our sole, that's our goal.
that's what we, okay.
But and Mary, it's and Mary Jo, it's your understanding that we would still collect the $275 revenue
From the,
from the annual leasing of
yes,
the pole?
270. Yep, no matter who owns the pole that the small antennas attached to, we would still receive the 270 annual fee. Because it's in our,
that was my big concern.
it's in our street right of way. That's the fee we're allowed to charge.
And just with these licenses, do we have a master plan of exactly which lights we want to, which poles and lights that we're going to purchase? And so when they apply for these revocable licenses, that we know, okay, this is one that we, don't want to allow them to go on, or that we'd like to retain. For example, like in a special lighting district where we want the entire unit, or are we just looking for the light itself?
I mean, part of these, the aesthetic design standards will give direction on what poles they can attach to, and we don't want them attaching to the ornamental street lighting poles downtown, for example. So that gives guidelines and regulations on what we will and will not allow.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next ones are sidewalks.
Chris Ettinger from DPW.
Do you want to just, I know this comes up every year, do you want to just give us a real brief overview of this process and how it works?
About, you want me to, the $1 million you're gonna bond?
Correct.
It's for city assessment, sidewalk repairs.
Mm-hmm.
It's done by complaint driven.
So I guess one of the questions I know we have is what do we use in a year typically? Is it normally approach the $1 million? Is it much less?
Last year was 1.3.
Okay.
Total with We also use roughly 200,000 of city sidewalk money.
Okay. Do we have data historically on what we typically do in a year?
It's pretty much the norm is around 1 to 1.3, 1.5. Some years we can do more if we have the money, and just we actually had to slow down on because last year had so many that we couldn't get them done. The contractors can't get that quantity done. We did 230 properties last year, among other city-owned properties and corners, but that's about the max they can do. That was like 1.3 million total.
So, I mean, I think one of the questions we had was, you know, there's obviously discussion about doing a municipal sidewalk program and whether or not that makes economic sense. And to the extent that we have economic data going back over the last, you know, couple of decades, we can have a better estimate of what costs, you know,
well,
we actually
this
incur.
program has been going on for decades, and they've spent $1 million a year, and it's been bonded.
Is there a list that shows, like you just said, there were 230 properties done last year? Do you have that for at least the last 7 years, maybe 10 years? The number of properties, the number of linear feet, and the average cost per property?
Yeah, I think as we continue the conversations, I mean, this is a separate, you know, this is something that happens each year, but as we continue the conversations about the municipal sidewalk program and maybe changing the way we approach it, we'll definitely be looking at mapping, you know, where we've installed sidewalks, how much have we spent on the program each year. So those will be data points we'll be looking at as we continue the conversation. My name is Corey Dunham. I'm Director of Operations.
These are separated because the city-owned are not reimbursed, and the $1 million is charged to the property owner.
Well, I understand the difference, but for instance, I just think it's a good opportunity for us to understand how many of these have we done over each of the last years, so that we know, like, where people are in repayment. You know, like, are there 230 from every year, or were there 101 year, and how much have they paid off?
It's always over 200.
I know, I'm just saying, if there's like a table that could have
mean,
the number and where they are in their repayment, so that we can understand, that would be helpful.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't expect you to have it this second.
Once we're done with it, DPW passes on to the Department of Finance, and they assess it into the
This is one of those
tax.
things that actually is able to be put on your taxes, so.
I get it, yeah.
They pay for it over 10 years.
Right.
Seize their house.
Right, but to track it, I think it would be good, so we can see how many people actually we charge back.
Yep.
Okay.
This is kind of just out of curiosity and anecdotal. Do we know the average of what a sidewalk costs a constituent? Like, you know, I've had some constituents tell me it's low thousands, some that were over 10,000.
Depends how much
I know
you
it
own.
varies from place to place, but do we know what the mean or the average is?
I'm sure we could look at historic data and figure out what the mean cost has been to property owners.
4,500.
Yeah.
4,500 is about the average. Yeah, I don't need to know exactly, but I'm just curious, like ballpark, if it's 4,000 or 8,000 or whatever. 4,500 is about the average.
Yeah. Corner properties are an issue. You know, they're the expensive ones.
Corners, yeah.
If you own a corner lot, it could be a lot.
Yeah, I had a
But
constituent.
most people own the single lots. They're 30, 40 feet. So
And what's the useful life on a sidewalk in Syracuse?
if it's a good built, you know, good quality workmanship, it could last 40 years. You know, but
And it's double pour, right?
that's how our standard. We do 2 pour.
Okay. And
You don't have to do that. It's not required.
But we do double pour.
We do it because it lasts better. It's
And how, I'm just trying to figure out, maybe I'm off, but do we do it by linear footage or just by the size?
well, the double pour is it's like a layer of one type of concrete, then the top layer is a different type. It's more of a finer mortar type. It's just, the salt doesn't eat away at it so easily and everything, so that's why it lasts better.
Is there actually, because I actually get like text pictures from this guy who does concrete stuff, and he's constantly complaining about how 2 pour is only done in Syracuse, and there's no evidence for how it makes it last longer, and it seems like it probably makes it last less, because why wouldn't you want 1 pour and have it all be one piece instead of having a place where it slips, and then it's more expensive. He says undeniably more expensive. But then you also just said 2 pour is not required, but then you said we do it, so that part I'm confused on too. Is it required or is it?
It's the standard has been like if you do more than so many square feet, they want us to do the 2 pour. If you go to get a permit, a private individual, it states right on there over 325 square feet, you're required to do 2 pour. under that square footage, which is a standard property of 40 foots, you're not required to do that. But we recommend it because it does last and it is better. So it's, and I offer it to both, you know, consumers if they, what they want to do, but.
Maybe. The only other question I think I have is you mentioned the 230 got done last year and there was a backlog and some were left. Do you have any idea how many?
Didn't get finished.
170, okay, great.
And I have already 50 ready to go and just more and more every day, so.
So
Okay.
Michael, can you call a committee meeting?
We can do that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
26.
Counselor, this is a local law because it's a permanent sale of the easement, which means it has to be introduced and tabled.
Okay.
Could you just get the background?
Sure.
Hi, I forgot to introduce myself before. Mary Robinson, city engineer. 26 is a local law for a permanent easement to National Niagara Mohawk and Verizon. Basically, we're installing a new electrical service to Bellevue Elementary School as part of the JSCB. So they need to install underground power line and a transformer pad. Also, in the area between Bellevue Elementary School and Shea Middle School is an old right-of-way, which is LaForte Ave, which is really no longer functioning as a street, but the formal abandonment of that street was never abandoned, or the process wasn't completed. So Niagara Mohawk's requesting that the easement include their existing overhead power, which includes Verizon, and underground gas. So in your attachment, it shows you sketches of both the existing utility and the proposed utility.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. 27 to 29.
27 to 29 is our University Hill bike plan, which really involves milling and paving Krause from East Jenny to Waverly, Waverly from Irving to Comstock, and Comstock from Waverly to Euclid. We put this project out to bid, and the bids unfortunately came in a little bit higher than our budget. We need approximately an additional $210,000 in order to complete the project. I went back to SMTC and was able to obtain the 80% federal funding and the 15% Marcha Silly funding, so we're only paying an additional 5%. So this legislation is to amend the bond ordinance, the agreement with New York State DOT, and the project authorization by an increase of $210,000 for total project costs not to exceed $2.483 million.
Do we have a timeline on when the work will be started?
We're hoping to start next month.
Okay. Any other questions?
What exactly is our 5%? Do you have the number?
Of the 2.483,
Yes.
$333,600.
333. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Item 30.
Actually, I need to make a small amendment. We only got 13.4% Marcha Silly because one of the design phases didn't get Marcha Silly. This additional 210, we did get the Marcha Silly. Sometimes we get the Marcha Silly, sometimes we don't.
I know,
So it's
up to
close.
15%, so we got 13.
Yeah, we're short 1.6. Sorry about that. Any more questions on that? Item 30 is another TIP project, the North-South East-West Interconnect project. Our consultant agreement is with Bergman Associates, and we're asking to amend their contract to add the final design phase for $672,500 for a total cost not to exceed $1.1895 million. This is 80% federal funded, 15% Marcha Silly.
Okay.
Questions? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Carney.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 31.
Good afternoon, Jimmy Oliver, Deputy Commissioner of Parks and Rec and Youth Programs. We would like to enter an application and agreement with AARP Community Challenge, not to exceed $30,000 for tricycles and bicycle helmets for seniors for bike rides, and for an employee to lead that.
It's all for seniors?
Yes.
They're not riding tricycles?
Yeah, we do.
Do?
Yeah, we do.
The new fancy ones?
Yeah.
All right. You guys tell me it's happening, I'll believe you.
I got one.
You got a tricycle? All right.
Was a recumbent tricycle the one that you actually power with your arms?
From my understanding, yes.
So there was one where you power with your arms. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right.
Righty then. Okay.
Thank you
I got
very
a guy
much.
in the neighborhood that rides one around. So.
Any unicycles or what? All right.
Thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate it.
And Councilor Lovejoy Grinnell.
I think Councilor Rudd's gonna handle that.
He told me to handle it.
Yeah.
I have it. On behalf of Lovejoy Grinnell. Yes, sir. Is there anybody here to speak?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Matando, President of Local 280. I'm requesting permission to meet with the committee pursuant to contract language within our collective bargaining agreement.
I'm going to have to stop you for a second. We're asking for a department head to speak on the item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Vosser, Budget Director. The legislation in front of you is to enter into a contract with Excelis for the third-party administrative services on behalf of the city and the school district. The city issued a joint RFP a number of months back and accepted proposals for this work to be done with the city. A committee of 6 individuals, including labor and council members, decided to award the contract to Excelis. We would start the work transitioning employees over on July 1st, 2019. And in your packet is a appendix which outlines all the administrative costs separated by the city and the school district.
Any questions from any of my colleagues? Hearing none, I'll call that item ready. Thank you. This is not the venue for
Let them speak.
this ain't the venue, this ain't the public hearing.
No, but they can speak. Why not?
It's up to the president.
Let us speak. Okay, go on.
Sorry about the previous. Paul Matano, President, Syracuse Firefighters Local 280. I'm just asking to go before the appropriate committee to discuss the issue 32 pursuant to contract language within our collective bargaining agreement.
Can you clarify that, Mr. Matondo?
There is language, without getting to a lot of particulars, back from the history of this in 2011, we made this full reverse. And there was language put into our collective bargaining agreement, actually at the request of the city, that was very clear that any additional change from the POMCO administrator, which UMR just took over POMCO and now we're making this change, that the next change would have to be negotiated with collective bargaining through Local 280. We're just asking to sit down and meet with the appropriate committee.
Okay.
Language is clear within the collective bargaining agreement. Thank you.
Yep. Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 33 through 70. Item 33 is an application. We just recently held a public hearing last Wednesday for the CDBG funding. So that's actually ready.
It will be ready when you give me your results of what you want to do. Is it should be hard to change it by this Friday? We have to have it no later than Friday.
Yep, okay, so it'll be ready by Monday. 34 is an agreement with United Way and Home Headquarters. Is Stephanie or Commissioner?
Good afternoon, councilors.
Hi.
Are there any questions about this agreement?
I do have a question. So do you already know like how many positions we're gonna have in this particular project, and do you know the amounts, like how much we're gonna pay?
Just for personnel?
Yeah.
We
Give
have,
like a total amount if you have one.
so there are the equivalent of 3.5 full-time counselors, but it's 5 individuals. So there's 2 full-time counselors and 3 part-time counselors that have been trained by the Cities for Financial Empowerment, and they had to pass a test in order to deliver these counseling services. And 3 are employees of home headquarters. 1 works for Cooperative Federal Credit Union, and 1 works for the City of Syracuse. It's Mary Margaret, so she was trained and is able to provide that counseling.
Okay. So she would still she's gonna do her job in your office as well? Is this something dual, or will she be leaving?
No, so it's still be in NBD,
Okay.
And she'll be spending 50% of her time on this and 50% of her time on the lead grant. And Patty Lynch on our staff has taken over responsibilities with owner-occupied outreach with the land bank.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions on 34? Okay. 35. 35 is for an application and agreement. Did we have anybody else here? Commissioner? That's okay. So this is from my understanding, this is the second phase, right?
Correct. They're calling it Zombies 2.0
Okay.
in short.
And so with the first one, do you know how many properties you actually were able to touch?
So with Blight Busting, I believe 13 properties are either completed or in the pipeline, but there's another 44 by initiating Blight Busting, the owner complied. So we consider that also a success. We didn't have to physically do those repairs, but the sort of threat of Blight Busting had those owners comply. So we'd like to continue that program as much as we can.
And then within the second phase with the 400,000, do you know how many properties?
I apologize. I didn't bring the application with me, but the idea with this is a large piece of the funds is to continue Blight Busting, to have those dollars to actually do the bricks and mortar and do those scopes of work. But we'd also like to hire an attorney. Right now in the law department, the attorneys assigned to code enforcement have a huge caseload, and so vacants, can sometimes take a back burner because there's occupied structures that need to be brought forward. So the idea behind this would be to hire a full-time attorney that solely focuses on vacant property, and those ones that are tax current or that we've been unable to get the owners to either list and sell and get back into productive use, or just to correct the violations on the exterior.
Okay.
So what are you asking for then, a breakdown? Part of the money is for an attorney, part of the money is for brick and mortar too, or?
Yep, so part for Blight.
What's the breakdown?
Sure, I'd be happy to send you the budget, okay. But part of the funds were also for sort of a research assistant to that too. We are considering replicating Buffalo's shaming program, which requires a lot of research to find out who the actual owner of some of these properties are and whether or not we can post in the paper or on the site alerting people who the actual owner is and that they're not complying with the violations of the property. So the research person will also help identify ownership for the attorney. Part of why some of these properties are so difficult is we have a really hard time finding out who the actual owner is or who has that financial interest, if it's a bank or an investment group or a servicing company out of Texas or something.
Sure.
And since we're talking about property, Stephanie, maybe you can answer, maybe it's Ken. Rental registry, how are we complying with that?
I'd be happy to. Hey, Ken. So I know 1,000 notices went out. Did a second batch of counselors asking about rental registry, how we're doing?
And where are we at in house compliance?
So on March 5th, we started sending out violations for failure to apply on the 540 properties that did not apply back in July to August of 2018. So when Leah Whitmer mentioned when the ticketing process starts, that's what we're going to be sending her way, is that first batch of tickets. So once we wrap up this 500, we will start the next group of 1,000 in another area of the city.
So what's your number of people that you said 1,500? So that's 1,500
Nope,
properties.
we started with 1,000 on July. 1,000 letters went out to 1,000 property owners. We received about 400 applications, inspections, received their rental registry certifications. Now we're going after about 540 who never applied. Those are the ones that we sent out notice of violations to starting on March 5th. We gave them 30 days to apply. If they don't, on April 8th, we will ticket them and send it to the BAA.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, item 36.
Good afternoon, councilors. Heather Lamandola, zoning administrator. Item 36 is a companion piece to the petition for a zone change that you had on your previous agenda. This is Syracuse University, and this is Marshall Square Mall and University College.
Okay, thank you.
I'm kind of curious on this one. So this is, just to clarify, this exempts them from the rezone? Is that the intention?
No, what it does is it sets up their development parameters that they cannot exceed. If they need to do that, they have to go before the Planning Commission and this body again to change any of those geometric dimensional requirements that are in this district plan.
Ah, okay, got you.
You good?
Yep, I'm good on that.
Okay.
All right, 37.
37 is a special permit. This is a modification to a restaurant that you recently approved on the corner of Dell and Westcott Street. They are adding signage and also rearranging some interior floor plans due to the exterior addition.
Is this the old Papa John's?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. And 38?
And item 38 is a special permit for light duty motor vehicle repair, and the only waiver that the commission granted was for signage. That's 1200 Park.
So this is just to approve signage, because if this is the.
No, it approves everything. So
Okay,
interior,
if this
exterior.
yeah, if this is is this a new owner, or is this the current individual that's running this
Um,
operation? 'Cause if it is,
Mohammed Haq.
we've had nothing but problems with this business, with setting tires out, leaving business. I've had to send officers from the police department to red tag. If this is, you know, he's currently already doing this type of work, whether he's legally been doing it or not.
Right.
So, you know, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to do a little bit of research, but if this is who I think it is, then I'm going to urge the council to not approve this. This has been just a problem property and a problem business in my district.
Okay. So I'll hold it, and then you just get back to me and let me know what you want to do.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Heather, on 36, just in relation to Councilor Driscoll's question about the institutional plan district and whether it exempts them from the rezone. It does make it so they wouldn't be changed in rezone, right? So it is kind of like they're creating their own standard and then we don't deal with them again in the rezone?
No, we deal with them. So plan institutional districts and plan development districts are zoning districts that are remaining with our new zoning ordinance, and so they would still have to go through the same things. Like I said, if they change anything, they have to go to the Planning Commission and then this body to change their district plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and now items 39 through 70.
Up until 56 were all held, and then 57 on as a new.
Yep.
Afternoon, councilors. Callie Kaku with NBD. The list is coming around the table. I'm happy to take any questions. It represents a total of 31 properties, including the items previously held. I do have one request to make to withdraw item number 59 for future consideration.
55 and 59?
59.
Oh, sorry.
59. Okay, so first, the items 39 through 56, the older items. Do any of the district councilors have any questions or any moves on those?
I still have to hold mine on Foxborough.
Okay. Councilor Carney?
Let me get back to you on Monday.
Okay. All right, so we'll take a few days to review these and then we'll let you know how we'll move on Monday.
Happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Thank you, Counselor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 71, an amendment to the general ordinance regarding taxi cabs. I believe this item should be ready by Monday. And if anyone has any questions, I'd like to encourage the passage of this one.
We should ask Law to send it out to everyone because it's not in the book.
Yes, and I spoke to Catherine. She apologized for not including it in the book, but if anyone would like a copy, we'll send it forward. For those who are familiar with it, we've reduced the size of the signs by a little bit, but beyond that, the legislation should remain the same.
Okay.
Any questions? No? All right. Thank you, Madam President.
I need a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor?